Yeah,
right?
you've been there, you get it.
Oh yeah, I've been there. So first, brother Brian McNaughton, 33rd. Welcome to the Craftsman Online podcast.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm excited. This is another guest from the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction. And there's one thing that I've always respected a lot from our Scottish Rite brothers is that you have shown paths forward, so to speak, when it comes to membership and marketing and engagement and retainment and all lessons that can be learned and put to use in our local Blue Lodges. So let's start there. The journey for the Blue Lodge is where we knock on the door, we get our first 3 degrees in Freemasonry, and then we start looking elsewhere for this light in Masonry. Your Pathfinder program launched in April of 2022. How did the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction develop that program, and what was the goal for the effort?
Great question, and it truly was a labor of love on Pathfinder. A lot of brothers, we had in committee at committee level, we had been talking about ways to engage our members, whether new or old, how to get them involved. I mean, how often, whether it's at Blue Lodge or in the Scottish Rite or any organization, you join and you're kind of just left there and you're looking around wondering, I have no idea what's coming next, or even, I don't even know the questions I should be asking here. I'm lost. And so that kind of was at the heart and soul of the program, really, of we don't expect people to know all the questions to ask, but if we can at least put those questions in front of them so that they can begin to explore those at their own pace and kind of pick and choose a direction where they want their membership and the value and what they're seeking in the organization to come to fruition, that's going to be a winning combination. So that was kind of the starting point, the genesis of the program.
Okay. We've had brothers from the Scottish Rite on, and they've talked a lot about that part of the craft. We've had brothers on from the York Rite. They've talked about the structure and some of the degrees and the leadership aspects that are involved there as well. What I would say, and I'm sure you might agree with this, the York Rite is set up a little bit more similar to what you would experience a Blue Lodge Mason, where the Scottish Rite, you join, you take the 4th degree, and then there's all of these other degrees, and it's kind of a choose your own adventure style. Like you can, I don't want to say pick and choose which degrees you want to see. You should eventually see them all, but there's no real set order. It's a lot of it is, and I could see why when you said brothers can sometimes get lost, where it's like, I walked into this large superstore of Freemasonry. There's all these resources. I don't even know where to start.
I absolutely love that you use the choose your own adventure description for that, because growing up on those books, I absolutely love those. But that's the exact feel of it, though. You get the 4th degree, and really the choice is yours in terms of which degrees you're able to go and attend. Whether you want to see them locally, whether you want to maybe travel with a buddy to a neighboring valley and check those out. But that really opens up the doors for building friendships and connection amongst brothers, and that truly is vital. I mean, without that connection amongst brothers, that is, I think, one of the biggest reasons, I guess, that leads to guys maybe kind of dipping their toes in the pool, so to speak, and maybe saying, well, this might not be for me, or I don't feel welcome. So any chance we've got to help brothers connect like that is absolutely a home run.
And I kind of feel there's 2 types of Scottish Rite Masons and York Rite Masons, just like there's a couple different types of Blue Lodge Masons. There's the guys who get into this, and it's like they joined Freemasonry up front to become a Scottish Rite or York Rite Mason. Like the Blue Lodge was just the thing they had to do to get to the other place. Or there's the guys that are like, well, I'm curious. I don't really know what to expect. I'll kind of inch closer to this. And then either way, you get into it and you're like, wow, this is a different experience. And what I also find is the brothers that are in these bodies tend to be more engaged. I like to call them kind of like the all-star Freemasons, that they really enjoyed Blue Lodge and now they're looking for something a little bit more. So for brothers that are just kind of used to their own lodge brothers, now you're meeting other brothers in your district or throughout your jurisdiction, and you're getting together and you're starting to create these real bonds, not just with your own personal development, but also a deeper journey into the craft.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big topic that comes up in terms of, Blue Lodge membership and going into some of the appendant bodies and so forth, that I think sometimes maybe Blue Lodges are a little cautious that, hey, we kind of want to retain the guys that we have coming to Blue Lodge, but that's kind of an added benefit with those relationships that you build as that social network expands into the Scottish Rite or York Rite. You get to meet guys from other lodges in your area and so forth. And a lot of times we end up seeing, you know, they don't leave their Blue Lodge. They actually gain a deeper appreciation for it. And, they're visiting other, the lodges of their buddies, and they're helping out with degree work as well. And it becomes a much more cohesive group of friends. And I lost it on that one.
That's okay. But
sorry.
And I get what you're saying, because I'm also guessing, as the director of program management for the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction, when you talk about peaks and valleys, just speaking from experience in my home jurisdiction in New York, I'm going to guess towards the end of our Masonic year is when you start to see a bump, usually over the summer going into the fall the next year for New York, of brothers who recently have obtained or were raised to the subline degree of Master Mason, who now can start pursuing that Scottish Rite experience.
Absolutely. And traditionally in the Scottish Rite, I would say that the spring and the fall are big reunion times. And so, of course, you definitely see that influx of members. But with some of the additional programs that we have been offering, such as Thursday night at the Rite and so forth, not that we've smoothed it out throughout the entire year, but we've got a kind of a midwinter feature with our season of Thursday night at the Rite. So we've got a nice influx of guys that are wanting to join virtually. And I got to tell you, it has just been wild to see guys that have joined via Thursday night at the Rite and joined the Rite night. That same with Pathfinder, but I mean, we've had guys from, that are residents of the U.S., but maybe they were stationed overseas in the military. They're working overseas or something like that, or even on the West Coast. And it's a way for them to feel engaged and feel reconnected. I mean, there's guys that reached out, I mean, almost tears in their eyes, saying, you know what, I have not been able to be back to my valley in 30 years. And it's the first time I've been able to see one of our degrees in that long. And you have no idea how much that means to us. And that right there is why you do it. To make them feel connected and feel a little bit of home wherever they may be.
Personally, I had been a Master Mason for a number of years. COVID hit in 2020, and like all Masons, I was looking for a way to connect with brothers online. It's kind of how I started Craftsman Online. But I was also one of those guys that's like, you know what? I've got this time. I'll go to the Scottish Rite. I know that they have the virtual degrees. This is something I can do from the safety of my own home. By the way, I know that, there might be some contention with some brothers on the pros and cons of the virtual degree. Personally, I loved it. I love being able to get up and, take a comfort break when I needed one, have my breakfast, and be enjoying Freemasonry on my flat screen TV at home in my favorite chair. I loved that. I understand the need to want to be around brothers and support valleys and see the live degree conferrals. That there's 32 degrees to go see. You're not going to be able to see them all online. But I loved the idea of how the Scottish Rite has kind of been very progressive in that thinking. I always describe to people that the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction are really wicked smart guys, because I'm guessing you don't just step back and say, hey, what can we do to keep our guys happy in here? You also go and make, data-driven or evidence-based decisions.
Without question. And I think you touched on a great point just a moment ago, that it's not a replacement, and we didn't really intend for it to be a replacement. It's a supplement. It's an additional way of connecting with our members. But to your point, yes, very much data-driven and member feedback based. That there's times in leadership positions you think you might have a pretty good idea of what your membership is seeking, and maybe you try a few things out and you hear that, oh gosh, that didn't go very well at all. Well, okay, then it's time to course correct at that point. We very much are paying attention to the analytics of these programs, with attendance and the number of guys that are joining, and really trying to tweak that and fine tune that to make sure that what we're offering remains viable and attractive and most importantly, enjoyable. We want guys
Mm.
to enjoy the situation and be able to meet other brothers and feel more connected to one another and to the organization.
So, in my Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction experience, the passport program was very popular. We had something similar with my mother lodge, and I think one brother who was really engaged with that on the Blue Lodge level. But when there's only 17 lodges in my home jurisdiction to go visit, you can fill that book up pretty fast.
Certainly.
The passport program, what can you tell us? What was that a byproduct of?
That's a really good one. We've been talking a lot about this in terms of program absorption and adoption. The passport program started around the turn of the century, around 2000, and it, like many things, I guess, in Freemasonry, and this is not a dig at Freemasonry, but sometimes we're not super fast at adopting new things, new ideas, new
Mm.
concepts. And the passport program, it gained traction. It was a really neat way to encourage brothers to, for one, see all 29 degrees. We make that very clear. You don't have to see them all at once, and as we said, choose your own adventure. But a way to track that, and it was appreciated. But it really was around the time of COVID when all of that came through. When that really it went from a solid performer to an absolute foundational rock star piece of the Scottish Rite. That, I mean, guys, we were processing so many degree passports. I can't even can't even begin to tell you that. There is a member of ours, and it may be even more than this now, but I think at the last count he was at 17 completions on his gold passport.
Wow.
This guy loves to travel. He has met people from all over, the jurisdiction, all over the country. Um, but that's what he does, and he absolutely loves that. And there's a lot of other brothers that are like that, but it's nothing for them to get a car piled in and enjoy a breakfast and go to the next state over and view a couple of degrees and enjoy the day.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
fantastic. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, I've heard so many brothers that are really engaged with their valley. They do that. They support other valleys. They, do, as you said, like these Masonic road trips. We're like, oh, we're going to go see the 17th degree. We're going to go here, and then we're going to stop here and do that. I'm like, wow, that sounds amazing. I wish I had time off to be able to join you guys.
There you go.
Please send postcards.
Exactly. Tell me how it
So,
was.
from the success of the passport program, which was the idea of let's get these traveling men out, let's get them visiting the other valleys, let's get them engaging and interacting with each other. Then you came up with the idea of the not the North Star program. Gosh, I'm so confused. Then you came up with the idea for the Pathfinder program, which was that a response to you had an influx of brothers that were coming in during COVID who kind of parachuted into becoming Scottish Rite members that just didn't really know where to go or how to navigate through the Scottish Rite?
Um, yes, and there's actually a couple of responses to that. And I'll preface too saying that actually HGA preceded the Hograd Academy preceded Pathfinder. That actually launched in 2018. But Pathfinder, in the big picture and all the facets of what you're looking at with your membership, retention is always in the back of your mind. We're doing a really great job of bringing in new members, but we're seeing guys that are leaving or not wishing to continue their membership, and you have to scratch your head at that point and say, okay,
Mm.
we've got a problem here, or we've got something that we can be doing better here. What is that? And so you begin to have conversations. You talk to guys, and it's one of the common refrains that we heard in some of our survey data, that, well, I went to meetings, it was kind of cliquish, I really wasn't welcomed all that warmly, and maybe it just didn't feel like it was my thing.
Mm.
And as we said earlier, it was overwhelming. There were so many things. I saw all these different color hats. I saw all this terminology and nomenclature. I had no idea what they were talking about. And that really was when we sat down and discussed that. Okay, if they're feeling this way, how can we tackle this? What can we do to better serve them as members? And so Pathfinder truly from all facets of the Scottish Rite, one-on-one engagement to organizational history to, those general trivia items of just what do those different color hats mean, and the active members or 33rds or MSA members. What does all that mean? I keep hearing the term, but I don't get it. But also just, I mean, you mentioned COVID earlier. Let's be honest. I mean, sometimes as we're getting a little older, our circle of acquaintance kind of shrinks a bit. We don't have maybe as many close, inner circle friends as we once did. And sometimes it's easier just to stay home. Maybe, you got a new series on Netflix or something like that you're wanting to check out. But if guys are going to use their time to come to a meeting, come to an event, that's where we said we have to do better with this, because we value their time, and we have to show that to them, that we not only value their time, but we value them as individuals. And so there's a lot of activities in Pathfinder that are specifically geared. How many times have you been at a meeting or a social gathering where that conversation stays really high up there on the surface? The same old small talk. Do you really take the time to sit down and say, hey, tell me a little bit about your family? I really don't know much about you. What do you do for a living? Or, what's your background? Really getting personal. And sometimes, the reaction when you do that, people are kind of like, are you trying to sell me something? It's like, no, I'm generally interested in you, and I'd like to learn more about you. You seem like a cool guy, and, want you to come back.
It's so funny you say that, because I think of every dinner whenever I sit down, and I'm just speaking in generalities here, but I'll be able to tell from the expression on your face. It's usually the older brothers that sit down and they start coming over to you and they have these conversations. And they're like, you'd be happier if you joined the shrine, or
right.
You should join the York Rite, or this guy. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're reeling me in here. But I get what you're saying, is that when you are with these other groups, and I, in my first couple of interactions with Scottish Rite brothers, I was almost, it was impressed, but I was almost a little intimidated, to say, at the same time, because these are all brothers that I recognized, as I said, are like all-stars or superstars. They were past masters, or members that had the gold aprons from our fraternity. They were Rite worshipfuls, and some of them didn't have big titles. I just knew that they had been members who were really invested and took Freemasonry very seriously. And all of a sudden, some guy that, filled out an application, paid his dues, took a couple of degrees, was sitting down and having dinner with them. And I really found that as a very powerful opportunity, that I was like, wow, I really feel like I'm in a more of an elite group of Freemasons.
And that is something I have thought of often as well. And it's been a challenge at times where, not to say the olden days or anything like that, but back in the day, with Freemasonry, you had to ask, you had to seek it out, you had to show that initiative. And over time, that has, our stance with that has shifted slightly. We've gotten a little bit more that, we can ask brothers that we feel are worthy and so forth. But I think sometimes, whether it's a societal thing, whether it's a personal thing, we see a lot of members that maybe they're kind of expecting a lot of that information to be kind of provided to them rather than seeking it out.
And you're like, it's not the Matrix, dude. You don't get plugged in.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta, you have to kind of have an idea of what it is that you're wanting from this. And that was, I guess, circling back to the big question, I guess, that you had with Pathfinder 2, that a lot of those activities intentionally kind of not force, but encourage them to step out of that comfort zone, and to be able to, sit down at those dinners that you just talked about and speak with some of those guys, whether, it could be a doctor in the community, or a lawyer, or an attorney, or a guy that owns an auto shop or something like that. But They're normal guys just like you and I that really just all they care about is wanting to get to know you.
Well, I have to say, as a guest from the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic jurisdiction, you're the first one we've had on that doesn't have the wicked Boston accent. So,
I,
but
I've got the
but I
Midwest
love
thing
it.
going on, so
Yes, it does show that it's the Northern Masonic jurisdiction isn't just the Northeast.
absolutely.
But Brian McNaughton, 33rd, is the Director of Program Management, and we're going to kind of dive into this Pathfinder program. I find it so fascinating that the Scottish Rite offers this. If we were mentioned it earlier, if you've recently been raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason, congratulations! Before our New York Masonic year ended, that's awesome. If you've gotten your application, your petition in to join the Scottish Rite, and now you're ready for it, you did the Thursday night at the Rite. Now you're interested in the Pathfinder program. Orientation for that starts every Wednesday at 7:00. What gets discussed during these orientation programs, Brian, and how soon can brothers jump into the Pathfinder program?
Great question. And I will say that we just this past month, we have kind of shifted to more of an on-demand experience. We acknowledge that, we'd love to be able to do it every night of the month and do it live and have it be interactive. But, we have an advisory board of about 20 different guys, but they're all involved in stuff. And so we felt that it was a good opportunity to offer this on demand and allow brothers to watch it at their convenience. So whether it's, if they're second shift, third shift, they've got lodge on the first Wednesday, you name it, it gives them a chance to watch this video and digest that at their time and leisure. In terms of what we cover, it really is kind of a quick dive into getting started. We talk about, the materials for the program, what you're going to need to be able to start working through this, where the different assets and resources are. We provide a field book, which is kind of a passport-sized booklet where they can document their progress through the program. But we've also got the guidebook, which is essentially it's the instruction manual, and it contains all the different activities as well and describes them in detail of, to complete this particular mile marker, you need to do A, B, C, and D, and maybe get a signature from a brother. So again, you're learning stuff about the organization and you're having that engagement.
And that's the thing that I find cool about this. It's kind of like brothers that have served, they'd be familiar with, basic training in a sort of way.
Sure.
With kind of a little bit more of like every class or every college freshman has to take like an intro to college living or an intro of how to graduate from college. It's like a pass fail half a semester or half term class that you have to take. And you had mentioned the mile markers, and you've got 32 of them across 5 categories. They're also referred to as waypoints. Can you kind of elaborate on the structure of that? Like when I was flipping through the book, some of them were as simple as just writing or recording your own experiences, kind of journaling your progress through the Scottish Rite.
Certainly. And actually we've got, I think we're over 100 now total in terms of mile markers. But so the program itself is divided into the 5 different categories: organization, hit pause on that for 1 second.
Yep.
I just.
You could just say 5 different categories.
Yep. Nope. There's good. I'm sorry. I absolutely drew. I was thinking 3 steps ahead and just lost myself. Sorry about that. So 5 different categories. There's different activities related to organizational history, self-improvement, Valley life, things that happen on a day-to-day basis at the Valley, some of the more advanced programs that we have, like Pathfinder and Hogrod, and so forth, leadership development, as well as service and philanthropy. We talk a lot about our core values. These are some opportunities to actually put those into action. So not only talking about them, but going out there and maybe calling on an older brother that's shut in during the winter, maybe helping them with some groceries or something like that, really connecting with our members and the community itself. So within each of those waypoints, you've got to complete 6 mile markers. And at the end of that, you get to pick 2 from any category. So that's where the 32 came from. You're going to complete 32 different activities total in the program, but you've got probably 100 some odd to choose from. And that really, those final 2 choices maybe are just an area of the program that you really enjoyed, or things you kind of wanted to do, but maybe you didn't have enough room. It gives you an extra opportunity to explore some additional activities with the 2 choice options there.
I like the
So
electives. That's cool.
yeah, and um, it really has been neat to hear the feedback. We survey all the members that have completed the program, and I should say too, um, we do kind of have a requirement. And I know that we've talked a lot about this. You have to become a 32nd before you can begin the program, and the question has come up quite a bit. Well, why wait until that point rather than when you become a 4th degree? And we really felt that we didn't want to detract from the overall joining experience. We wanted members to truly focus on, okay, I joined the Scottish Rite. I'm going to be learning. I've met a couple of guys here, and I'm going to see some degrees. And maybe it's a one day, maybe it's over a course of a couple of weeks. We didn't want to dump a lot of additional, inundate them with too much information. That you've obtained the 32nd. Now we've got something really for you to dig into that we think you're going to enjoy.
Okay, I like that. I mean, to me, it would be like we've all had to sit through new job orientations, right? And there's some of those videos that are very important. That yes, how to fill out a time card. That's helpful. We all want to get paid. Nobody works for free.
Right.
Other things about the company history, and those things would kind of relate to the corn, wine, and oil that we gain through the degree work. But the other things, like the administrative stuff, like the HR videos, and I think I know everybody knows which ones I'm talking about. You're like, oh my gosh, I gotta watch this now. Imagine if you didn't have to do that during the first 2 weeks of starting a new job when you have all this energy and excitement, but you could move that out to like a year later when you're like, yeah, I get it now.
Right.
I love that this is kind of the way that you've outlined things. What has been the response or the success rate for those of us that are involved actively with maybe Blue Lodge leadership, that are always looking to the Scottish Rite to maybe model a repeatable success story? How has this program worked out, and is it possible for a brother of their lodge to say, hey, I'm a member of the Scottish Rite, maybe we could bring some of these practices to my lodge here?
Certainly. I will say that several Grand Lodges have reached out, and actually a couple of other Supreme Councils have reached out saying, hey, we're hearing about this, and tell me more. And so, provided some materials and kind of gave a little bit of a walkthrough of how it works. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna work on this a little bit because we like what we see. And I will say that the like any of the programs, I mean, of what we have to offer. And so much like with the passport program, that everything takes a little time to be absorbed and adopted at the member level, at the valley level, and so forth. We have, I think, currently, I want to say around 300 guys that have completed it, and we've got about 2,200 that are in progress with it. So it's a nice, a nice segment of our membership has gotten involved with it. I think to some it might be a little intimidating, because I shouldn't laugh, but it really has been amazing, some of the feedback that we've received. There was a guy, and I won't say any names. The guy was a deputy's rep even, and he reached out and he said, hey, I got to tell you this. I have been a Scottish Rite Mason for 50 years. I'm a deputy's rep for such and such valley. There's stuff in here I didn't even know. And that's embarrassing to say. But I'm like, that's the whole purpose of it. If you learned anything from this, that is an absolute win, and that makes me so happy to hear. And that has been one thing that I've taught a lot of the times, whether it's officer orientation, in terms of trying to get officers to work with their members with Pathfinder. It's a wonderful engagement tool. And in some of the feedback from officers, it's like, well, I've done this stuff like, a million times. And I've often used the example of the magician. A magician that's done a magic trick 1,000 times. He's done it 1,000 times. But every time he performs that, he's got to make the audience believe it's the very first time. And really, with those members, that's what they're looking to share, that experience, and to feel that wonder and excitement with another brother. So you're right, maybe you've done it 1,000 times, but at that point, it's about the member. That you're doing it for them. You're not necessarily doing it to learn how this works. You're really doing it to help them grow and to learn more about the Rite.
I'm so excited to have a conversation with the director of membership programs about this particular area, the membership value. As the master of my lodge this year, and as someone who's been involved with Grand Lodge committees, when it comes to the proposition of membership value, my motto is that engaged members, people that see value in their membership, never ask the question, why am I paying? What do I get out of this? They Absolutely. It's really what you're putting into it. That's the experience, right? It's the unfortunate brothers who aren't engaged, who always question what the value in is for them. And fancy dinners or more bling or titles or, crazy fun programs, that's just a little gas you're going to pour on a fire that's going to give you a temporary burn. But you have to go deeper than that. You have to help them discover what that thing is that they were yearning for and discovering. And that's what I like about the Scottish Rite. Is that the benefit is many degrees. You're looking across many different valleys. You're exposed to many different brothers, but there's also many different programs. So if you're somebody that's really into Masonic education, the Hogwarts Academy, I mean, we joke about that. That's like the college of Scottish Rite. That's amazing. But then you also have, this Pathfinder program, you have the Passport program, or just being an active member in your valley. And to me, that's where you really get the value in membership, is the engagement. And I love that you have provided such a working example and a success story of how to do this. So thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. You mentioned Hogrod. Can I tell you just a quick one?
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
We just had recently added some featured graduate papers on the NMJ website, and just the unique flavor of what members are taking from the Scottish Rite. One brother had written a paper, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially it was titled Huey Lewis and the Power of Love, and
nice.
that he got right. And I thought, that is fantastic. I absolutely love that. And but it was a very unique take on the power of love, fraternal love and brotherhood. And it just very thought provoking, and absolutely love that. So
I'm going to have to go look at that paper, and I'm going to have to include that in the show notes for this episode, because I know other brothers are like, dude, I want to hear about this. Was it as good as Sports? Because that was the best record for them all time.
Right.
So, Brian, before we close out this episode, was there anything that I didn't ask you, or maybe a question that you had for me that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
Bear with me as I scan my notes real quick.
Okay.
We talked about the role of program management. We talked about Pathfinder. Mentioned briefly on, I don't know if it fits or not. And is it okay that we're having a sidebar here?
Yeah, that's fine.
The
only 3 people in China know that we're having this.
Know that we're having this sidebar. Well, and I don't know if you feel it's relevant or not, but even the vision statement of the Scottish Rite is something that there was a short piece that I put together on that, in terms of what is the deeper meaning of the vision statement about caring for our members, if that's relevant. But it's a 3-faceted.
Yeah, use that in a way, because I talked about the membership value a little bit, and you could just tag it. Just go with your thoughts, because I'm going to tag it right at the end of that when I made the comment about, which I do believe, that Scottish Rite, it's not about people that are engaged and involved. They never question what the value is, why they're a member of something, because they believe in it. It means something to them. And obviously you've identified with that. So now you have a vision statement.
Perfect. And so earlier you had mentioned on the value of members and just the overall member experience. That is something, not only the department that I work for with member services and programs, but the Scottish Rite, with its vision statement, we will strive to be a fraternity that fulfills our Masonic obligation to care for our members. And so in some of the discussions that we've had, kind of put some questions forward to some of the guys on our committees, asking them how they defined care. And I challenged them to describe that. What does care mean for you? I think a lot of times we have defined that very generally as just general, hey, you're my brother, I care about you. Okay, we've accomplished our overall vision. And I challenged and I said, I think it truly is a three-faceted definition of care, that not only is it an emotionally supportive care for one another, our love and concern for one another as brothers, that's part of our obligation in the Blue Lodge. We're charged to look out for one another and so forth. There's a support. I guess that was more on the emotional care side. There's a supportive care, with the Grand Almoners Fund, that, if things get tough in life, if there's financial, medical hardship, that we're going to be there to support one another. But it was the third component of that I really have pushed on and challenged others on to think about, is the developmental care. Think of a gardener, for example, tending the garden, wanting to provide the nutrients and the care and the love for the members to make sure that, they're getting everything that they need to become the best versions of themselves, to feel loved and welcomed and a part of something very special. And that really is ingrained in all of the programs and all we do at the Rite. And it truly is what makes me smile when I get up in the morning, and knowing that I get to help be a part of that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, I get the benefit, and our YouTube live streamers that are watching this recording as well, they get to see when you talk about the Scottish Rite, you smile, and to be a member of something that also working for, and to still have that energy and that passion, that is special. So I love that.
I appreciate that. It's been great talking to you. I really have enjoyed this.
So let me get 33rd degree brothers get the title of illustrious, right?
Yes.
So you illustrious Brian McNaughton, 33rd degree. I got that right?
Well, that's kind of the inside running joke, is that I have about 8 to 10 different nicknames. Okay. But
well, I was more concerned about the title part, because
yes, the title part is absolutely right. But
all right,
no, you nailed it.
Got that down from my Pathfinder extra credit program.
Right, there you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of the Craftsman Online podcast. It really has been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure indeed. Wish you all the best, and look forward to talking again sometime.